Hey, Mr. Stein.
Hey, guys. Yeah. Oh, I've never seen a class of students impressed by a columnist before. That's some school you go to. Definitely the dirty AP class.
He's the most famous person I've ever
So,
seen.
Mr. Stein, this is Carroll High School's AP composition and language class that we told you about. And so, for the activity that they were unaware why they were doing it, oh, sorry. So they have some questions to ask you, if that's okay.
Sure, do you have a microphone?
Yeah, I got a mic because it's built into the camera, and so we didn't want to like talk in your face or like that. So I have a microphone.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, does anyone want to start off? Sure. Okay. So David Hershey has his first question.
Oh.
Hi, Mr. Stein.
Hi, David Hershey.
I was wondering, how do you respond to the criticism that you get as a writer?
I guess I try and separate it from me as a person. Like, I realize that what your work isn't you. I mean, yeah, it's hurtful, and I accept it. It's just different kinds. There's just like pure vitriol, which I think is often people's own anger. Then there's like criticism of something that you meant to annoy people with,
Yeah.
and not kind of proud of. And then there's the kinds where it's like, oh, you didn't say what you meant to say very well, or you said it more hurtfully than you meant to, and that's upsetting.
Okay.
So I don't know, you get used to it.
Alrighty. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Anyone else want to go next?
Yeah.
What's David Hershey? What place?
Danielle, do you
That's
want to
4 or
go?
5 for sure.
Yeah. We've got, this is Danielle Parsons, so she has a question for you next.
Okay. Let's be honest.
Hi. So we were talking about one of your articles called Pushing the Envelope, and we talked about how your humor and your wit kind of muddled your purpose, and that was one of my biggest deals when I was reading it. I didn't really know what exactly you were talking about, so I don't know. Would you care to explain?
Yeah, I don't know headlines that well. What was that article about?
It was about the U.S. Postal Service, and you had this 6-point formula to curing the Postal Service, and it was a really great article, really entertaining, but I wasn't really sure whether you were saying that the post office is beyond help, or if there are better ways to do what the post office is doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if I had an awesome point to make in that article, other than I mean, the post office is in trouble. I kind of love the post office, and I think we should save it. But I obviously didn't have an actual plan. Although that was a weird article because I point behind me, but I could probably make you see it. But there's a box of 1,000 letters that people sent back to me. So
That's great.
someone put $100 worth of stamps on their envelope. Literally, they're $5 stamps. So I think I did make the post office like, I don't know, $1,000 or so. But I actually, there was action in that one, so I think I may have saved the post office.
That's fabulous.
It was weird. My dad was out here at the time, and he was totally freaked out. He opened all of them, literally. There's thousands. It took me 3 days. I don't know what to do. I answered people who put their email in there, but if they're sitting here, since the article came out, because I don't know what to do with them. I just feel bad not writing people back. It just doesn't seem possible. So I'm less concerned about making a point than dealing with these 1,000 letters. But yes, that was more just trying to be funny. There wasn't a real point to that. The point was, I like the post office. We need to find a way to save it. There aren't any good solutions.
Okay.
Or I don't know any. Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody? Colin?
Got me a question.
This is Colin Arnstein.
It's a great name. He's going places.
I appreciate
Darn
the
it, my
endorsement.
name's not good enough.
I would, no, you'll do fine.
Okay, thank
You'll
you.
do fine.
We've been kind of focusing on your humor, at least the group has, and we were wondering if there's like any piece or any topic that you kind of drop the humor, or if you really just take a serious stance towards? Because we haven't really seen that.
Have I ever written serious pieces?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I wrote a couple pieces. I was assigned a couple pieces, like right after 9/11, I wrote about how they were taking, it was like a 3 or 4 page piece about how they were taking the remains, or looking for remains, not finding them in the rubble. And then I wrote a piece that was okay, that piece. But then I wrote a piece I kind of liked, where I went down to Death Row down at Angola Prison in Louisiana. And I hung out with the guy who, the warden, who runs the prison and also is there when they put people down. And so I wrote about what it's like to kill people if you're the warden in a prison with death row. That was not funny.
Is that the really famous one? That was just
Earl Kane. Earl Kane's a fascinating dude.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Ryan?
Do you need the sheet? No.
Okay.
Joel, how's it going?
Good.
Good. All right. I was wondering, like we said, we've been talking a lot about your humor, and I was wondering if your colleagues, maybe the older, more traditional guys who write columns, how they react to your tone.
Yeah, it's become less of a problem because of 2 factors. I've been there since 1997, so I've been there for 14 years, done the column for basically 13 years, and the population at the time has gotten significantly younger. But when I first got there, it was a real issue because I was using up space to be silly that could have been spent on, 97 probably, on Bosnia. But people felt like they were losing space to something that wasn't necessary. People still feel that way, but it was it's kind of accepted now that I've been doing it for a while. But yeah, there was a piece that I thought was really good. It was my editor's idea where we got a graphic novelist to illustrate me interviewing him, and his graphic novel was about Bosnia, which is why I thought of Bosnia. And it was 3 pages in the magazine, the editor loved it, it looked really cool. And then the woman who covered kind of world affairs thought it was just in bad taste to do any kind of graphic depiction about Bosnia and make jokes about Bosnia. So it got ripped down at the very last second. And I had a lot of articles that were ripped down at the last second due to taste issues from someone even higher than the editor at the time, the guy that ran All the Time Inc. So it was a struggle. I was lucky that the editor of Time who hired me was a real supporter. So for those first 4 years, he had my back in everything.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, I lost some friends there.
Any other Michael stuff? This is Michael Kudos.
Excellent.
Hello, Mr. Stein. I just have a quick question. I was reading Time a couple months ago, and I had 2 articles about child favoritism. One by Jeffrey Kluger that I ended up writing about, and the other that was apparently by you. And so that really made an impression on me. So I have a question. Do you write your articles with this intent of making an impression on your reader?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that because of Jeffrey's book, and they wanted. I thought it was kind of redundant to have me write the same thing that he wrote, because he wrote about his family. But they really wanted me to, and I didn't have a great idea that week, so I went with it. I think maybe I started writing something else that kind of sucked, and so we needed a new idea, so we did that. Do I try to make an impression on people? Sure. I think that's one of the main points of writing, is to make an impression on people. So I know Jeff does too. Jeff's an amazing writer. I think he co-wrote Apollo 13 with his brother, he's super smart guy and super nice. But yeah, I think he probably made more of an impression than I did. But then again, he worked on that for so long. It was his book.
Thank you.
Sure.
Melissa? And this is Melissa Marks.
Excellent.
Hi, Mr. Stein. I was just wondering what your writing process is like. Do you write more than one draft when you do your articles, and where do you get the ideas from?
I've been kind of writing a column. I'm going to answer those in the opposite order you asked them. I've been writing a column since, well, the thing I did in high school wasn't quite a column, but certainly since my sophomore year of college, and pretty much the same column. So I've learned, to read a lot, whether that's newspapers, magazines, blogs, any news source looking for ideas, journals, There's some people I call for ideas who I think are super smart, who are either professors or in the entertainment business, or, and also I just keep a list of all the ideas that come up in conversation. So I have a list of ideas I think are good, and then there are things that I know are going to take a couple months to work on, reporting-wise. So I would start working on those in advance. And then what's my writing process? My writing process is the same as it's been since high school, which is you do it the night before. Or if it's a long piece, you do it 3 nights before. Yeah, there's head shaking in the back. It's not good. It's stressful. No, it's bad. But you can't, it's hard to change your processes, especially if they're successful. Like, you will only change yourself after hitting rock bottom and failing. And I just finished, anyway, I just finished my book, in which I kept doing the drafts like a few weeks before they were due. And I think my book would be better if I hadn't done that. So how do? I take all my notes and my reporting and my thoughts and put them on a page, and then they wind up on the bottom of the page, because I write like 3 to 10 leads, first paragraphs, or first few sentences, or first 2 paragraphs, kind of figure out which of those are working. Pick one of those, either by reading them to my wife or just by figuring it out myself. And then some of the other ones I wind up using later in the piece somewhere. And then you come up with what we call your nut graph usually, which is your billboard graph. It's depending on how long the piece is, it's right after your lead, and it explains why you're writing about this and what you're writing about. And then I just start filling in. I don't outline. I know some people outline, but then I start filling in the quotes, have an idea of kind of some version of a 3-act story where you're going to try and tell a story with a act break that changes things, and then at the conclusion. And then I kind of edit as I go, and then afterwards, because I'm constantly starting at the top and reading and then rewriting, kind of as a procrastination tool more than anything. And then I get to the end and I work on a second draft, and then my editor hands it back, and then I really rewrite it. Because once you get someone else's eyes on it, you can see what's wrong with it.
Thank you. And I think Cameron, this is Cameron Duffner for your question.
You look like you've all done this before. It's all very well rehearsed.
No.
No, okay. How was working out on the Skype?
Oh, it's going well.
Yeah.
Don't take this the wrong way.
It's a great way to start
a question. You've been accused by some, not me, of being somewhat of a narcissist, and you seem to joke about it sort of in your writing. Is that you saying that you're not a narcissist, embracing it, or you're just making fun of your critics?
All of them, but specifically, I think I have a lot of narcissistic tendencies, which I think are bad, and I think my generation, and worse yet, your generation, really have them. So it's something more like I'm exploring, and I think there are a lot of negatives to it, probably a couple positives, but it's something I'm copying to and making fun of more than anything.
And then Keith.
Hi.
Hello, I missed you, Katie.
I guess my question was, in our class we're always talking about trying to build like a distinctive voice in our writing, and you had definitely had like a very clear, like distinctive voice. And I was wondering if you've always had that, or if you had to work to create that.
I definitely worked to create it. I know the first column I wrote for the Stanford Daily at college was I copied Dave Barry's voice completely. Then by my second one, it was kind of a mixture. By my third one, I kind of found it. I taught a writing class, and I stole something a professor actually had used at a writing class that I took. And his advice was to get a friend of yours to secretly tape record you during conversation, and then use that recording and transcribe it. And you get an idea of what you actually sound like in conversation, what your talking voice is. And then if you can kind of condense that and make it more interesting, just make it pop a little more, It helps you find your voice. I made students do it, and they thought it was pretty useful.
Thanks.
Okay.
But yeah, trying to come up with a voice that isn't authentically what you sort of sound like when you talk, I think isn't going to work. Or it's going to be hard. Or you'll be a great fiction writer.
Well, yeah, you can.
Can I expand on that?
Mr. Stansifer wants to say something.
Oh, I'm afraid of this.
Well, first of all, thanks for doing this. We really appreciate it. It's a cool opportunity, so thanks for taking the time to do that. But it's difficult for my students sometimes to find their voice because they're afraid of misinterpreting the assignment or something like that. And in college, you want to conform to the conventions and impress the professor. So what advice do you have for them about harnessing their voice while still getting the job done in an academic discourse type setting?
I don't know. I mean, my thought is that just like you speak differently to your grandparents than you do your friends when you're hanging out, you have to write with different voices sometimes. I mean, the most obvious example is when I talked about hanging out with Death Row guy, I used a different voice, which is a good tool as a writer. But I used to have this problem in college, which is I wanted to write in my voice because I was writing this column in college, and then when I wrote a paper, I wanted to write in that same voice. And I think that didn't serve me well, and that some of that voice might be okay, but there's also there's a way you talk to other academics that's different than the way you talk to your friends, that's different than the way you talk to readers of Time magazine. So I think you have to be able to adjust your voice depending on what you're working on, and you can't go full throttle in your own voice at all times because it's just inappropriate. So when you're writing a paper, you might want a little bit of that, but you certainly don't want to do it the same way you would if you were writing a blog. So yeah, I'm always modulating my voice depending on what I'm writing and who I'm writing for. It just matters, kind of.
Okay, and I think our last question is from Kara.
Hi, Mr. Stein. We've been talking a lot about your work in general. So, what influenced?
It's a good school. I'm glad you're doing this instead of reading Shakespeare or Faulkner.
Sometimes I have my reservations about nonfiction work, but that's just me. I'm a fiction person. But what influenced you to become a writer in general?
It was something I really enjoyed. I just was excited about getting certain magazines in the mail. I was excited about written comedy. Just as a kid, it was very punk for me, like nerd punk. I couldn't, and plus it was just a way I knew that I could get attention and express myself, because I can't play an instrument, I'm not good at sports, not that good looking, I needed to find something. And then I found out that this was something you could do, and once I just liked it. I wasn't doing it as a career, I was just doing it to write for my school paper, and I liked it.
Thank you.
Okay,
it's a quick one, I promise.
We have one more quick question from Logan McClay.
Hey there.
Hey.
I don't even know what this camera is. So, obviously reading is a good way to become a better writer. Do you have any specific works or anything that you read that influenced you or you would recommend to read as well?
Someone gave me this advice a long time ago, so I'm just going to repeat it because I think it's true, which is if you wanted to be a columnist, like in my case, you certainly wanted to read other columns, but you were never going to get great if you didn't read fiction and poetry and screenplays, just as many different ways that you can see the language constructed is going to expand your idea of what you can do. I've just finished this book. I was having a lot of trouble figuring out how to kind of string it together as a story. It's nonfiction, it's just like my columns, but it's longer, so I was having some trouble. And I was reading Jennifer Egan's Welcome to the Goon Squad. And because it's fiction and she was able to do other things, it gave me so many ideas of oh, you're allowed to just say this Or you're allowed to say that something reminds you of something else and then come back to something. It just, reading that book really, maybe because it's a good book, they have to do what I was reading at the time, but it just showed me tricks I could use. And I feel like even when I read poetry, it's like, oh, you can do that with language. So I think reading as broad a spectrum of stuff as you can. And the real trick to becoming a better writer, like with anything else, is just to do a ton of it, and to do as much of it publicly as you can. So you get lots of people telling you how much you suck.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap this up, we just wanted to thank you for coming and visiting us and answering some questions we had. So if we could have a round of applause.
Well, thanks again, and I guess that's it.
It was nice speaking to you. Good luck next year, and I hope the Skyping with Maureen Dowd goes well. Bye.
That was great.
Can I put excellent?
I just have a really down comment. That came, we Skyped him last night as a test run, and we mentioned some of the other columnists that were being discussed in class, and he told us that he got in a feud with Maureen Dowd, but it's okay now because she sent him a bottle of wine and a t-shirt, so they're
It's okay now.
Baby. So cute.
That was pretty